We live?
We're live.
Oh.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Ready.
Okay. So our presentation is on SAFMEDS, and the focus is increasing fluency of vocabulary terminology. This is for SPCE 611, Advanced Behavior Analysis. I am Melissa Humdy. We have Monica Patel.
Hello.
We have Natalie Rangel.
Hi.
Eunice Shin.
Hello.
And Annie Islas. So first, we'll just do kind of an overview of SAFMEDS. The purpose of our study was to utilize Say All Fast, a minute every day shuffled, also known as SAFMEDS, to increase fluency of vocabulary terminology. This study focused on increasing fluency and accuracy with coursework terms, so it was applicable to coursework. The mastery criteria for this study was 40 correct terms in a 1-minute timing. Additionally, generalization and maintenance of fluency was addressed in follow-up timings in different settings. So before content that is read can be understood, comprehension of vocabulary is pretty necessary. Sharon Green from Niagara University discusses in an article how her college student success is directly impacted by their understanding of the vocabulary that she uses when she teaches them. So if they don't understand the vocabulary, they're not going to grasp what she's trying to teach them. So vocabulary, it starts at a very early age and it expands as you go through life. And there's many ways that vocabulary is taught. One of these ways is flashcards. Now, Aaronin and Haynes-Smith, they used flashcards to help middle school students learn the vocabulary required by the state for the subject of science, specifically for science, but I'm sure that it was utilized more than that because as far as the article discussed, it was utilized school-wide. Another study by Griffin and Murtaugh used flashcards to increase sight vocabulary in children between 2nd grade and 6th grade. Both of these studies demonstrated benefits of using flashcards to specifically increase vocabulary fluency. Now, Monica will continue with supporting literature and the overview of the study.
So in support to what Melissa was saying, another research article that I came across was from Beverly Hughes and Hastings, and they utilized SAFMEDS flashcards in undergraduate statistics course, and the results indicated that there were significant improvement in terms of fluency of the concepts. In addition, Lin and Liu also used SAFMEDS to promote students' comprehension of material to improve college teaching methods. So in addition to students' comprehension of the material, they also used SAFMEDS in order to improve college teaching methods.
So the method of this study started with the participants. As we previously discussed in our introduction, the individuals were enrolled in SPCE 611, and they were developing fluency on a designated set of 60 SAFMEDS on ABA terms. Then our settings were any designated location in our home. So some of us chose living room, some of us chose bedroom, but we had to utilize that specific location during the entire intervention and baseline. Additionally, the materials for this study included 60 SAFMED flashcards, and as we put on the slide, the front had the vocabulary definition, while the back had the vocabulary word. We also used a timer, we used a video recording device, a data sheet, and a daily per minute standard acceleration chart. The behavior/definition that we utilized for our study was identifying the correct vocabulary term by speaking the word at a level audible to the observer after reading the description on the front of the card. An example would be reading environmental events that occur before a behavior and responding with antecedent. A non-example would be reading environmental events that occur before a behavior and responding not yet, skip, any alternate or incorrect term, an incomplete term, or not making any vocalization at all. Now Annie will cover baseline.
This study didn't have a typical baseline where we were responding at a consistent rate. So what we did was we went through the terms and a number of known terms that we have come in contact with out of the stack of 60. So during this, it was untimed, and we just got an initial frequency count of how many terms were this as correct on our data sheet and how many terms were to be marked as not yet. Shows as baseline. The intervention began the next day, and Natalie will go over the intervention phase.
Okay, so the intervention was day 2 of the study, and it consisted of the time session, which the learners set the timer for 1 minute. After that, the learner will read the definition, give a response, and this can be overtly or subvertly, and flip the card over. If the learner answers correctly, she will place the card in the correct pile. If the learner answers incorrectly, the card will be placed in the not yet pile. So this step will be repeated over and over until the timer signals that the minute has ended. After that, the learner will put down the card she was not able to respond during the 1 minute timing, and then count the cards in the correct pile and in the not yet pile. The learners will then record the timing with the highest number of not yets onto the daily per minute standard acceleration chart. And these steps, 3, 4, and 5 will be repeated for 10 consecutive days. And we did 3 timings a day for 10 consecutive days. And after the 10 days, the learners will conduct a 1 minute timing for 4 consecutive days. And that consists of the intervention. Now, Monica will discuss the data collection.
So our data collection procedures included first, once the timer was off, the participants would count the number of SAFMED cards with correct responses during the timing. A table chart with 2 separate columns, numbers correct and not yet, should be created to record the data. The total count of correct responses should be listed under numbers correct, and the participants will count the total number of SAFMED cards that were unused and record that in the total count under not yet's on the table chart. Then the data, duration of timing, location, and percentage of correct responses will be recorded for each timing sessions. The data for numbers correct responses and the numbers of not yet responses will be recorded on an A/B design graph. If more than 1 timing session is conducted, the timing with the highest correct responses will be charted on the data and on the date. So we use this chart or this table to record our data for the data collection procedures. Next, Eunice will be presenting the IOA procedures.
You're on mute still.
Thank you. IOA procedures. In order to confirm inter-observer agreement of data, video recordings of the SafeMed sessions were utilized. So each member recorded 3 episodes over 1 day during the intervention phase. These videos were uploaded onto YouTube and shared with one other member of the group. At the end of each video viewing, the observer took data on the number of agreements and number of disagreements. IOA was calculated by obtaining the total number of agreements between the learner and observer. This number was then divided by the total number of agreements plus disagreements, and then multiplied by 100 to get the percentage. So as you can see from the IOA data collected, all participants achieved an IOA percentage of 80% or better. And we also use these YouTube recordings to serve as a visual analysis of the treatment fidelity. Each observer recorded whether the learner followed the intervention steps accurately and consistently. And this is our chart. The intervention steps included choosing a location within one's home, shuffle cards, start timer for 1 minute, say a word out loud, place cards in separate piles, and then record the data after each session. Although all participants provided anecdotal evidence that intervention steps were followed accurately and consistently, video recordings made it difficult to capture all of these steps. And Annie will be going over our results.
So the results from our replication study indicated that we were all able to increase our fluency of the terms that we studied. The aim was 40 correct and 2 or fewer not yet responses. And although we did increase our fluency, not all of us were able to reach the fluency aim of 40. Melissa was able to reach aim of 40 and even surpass it and maintain it during the follow-up sessions. Of the participants were able to demonstrate the fluency aim of 2 or fewer not yet responses during the intervention phase. We were all able to demonstrate this aim by the follow-up sessions. The following graphs will depict our results, our individual results, and although it's not a standard acceleration chart, it does show a similar JAWS learning picture. Our graphs do depict an upward number correct within the minute, as well as a downward trend for the number incorrect or not yet within the minute. Let's go over our own graph results.
So this is my data graph, and when I collected the untimed baseline, I was at 42 I knew and 18 I was not able to answer. Then I started the intervention, and as you can see on the graph, I progressively increased the amount of corrects and I decreased the amount of not yets. Additionally, in my follow-up, I was able to maintain that, and in my follow-up, it doesn't show on the graph, but on my data chart, I did it in different locations. I did it with other people around, where during the intervention, I was just in my living room by myself. Nobody else was in the room while I was doing the intervention. During follow-up, I did it at my office. I did it at a friend's house, and I had other people around just to see if I could maintain it, and I was able to maintain it. As far as my intervention average, that was at, oh, you went past. I was at 30, you're good, 32.5 corrects and 1 not yet. My range was about 25 for corrects and 3 for not yets. My follow-up average increased to 42.8 corrects and 0.3 not yets. And my follow-up range was 1 corrects and 1 not yets. Now Monica will do her graph.
Okay, so for my baseline untimed, I was able to attain 37 correct responses and 23 not yet. For my intervention phase, I was, as you can see, the data line is progressing, and intervention average was 17 corrects and 1.5 not yets, and the intervention range was 14 corrects and 3 not yets. With the follow-up data, it did decrease, but it stayed around 20.5 corrects for average, and then 1 not yets. And the follow-up range was 3 corrects and 2 not yets. And the follow-up data was collected in various locations, such as a cafe and the living room. So that is the conclusion of my data graph.
All right. So my baseline for not yet, the highest was 18, and my not yet was 42. And as far as the intervention, it showed it's a bit bumpy, but it showed an upward slope. And for the intervention, my highest recorded for corrects was 20, and the lowest was for not yet was the highest for not yet. Yeah, lowest for not yet was 2. And my follow-up data, I had a 22 correct and then 1 not yet. And follow-ups was remained consistent as the intervention. I did it in my bedroom and while I was alone. So my intervention average was 12 correct and 3 not yet. And the range was 7 for corrects and 3 for not yet. Follow-up average was 21 corrects and 1.5 not yet. And then the follow-up range was 3 corrects and 2 not yet. And now Eunice will present her graph.
Yes. Okay, for my baseline with the untimed corrects and not yets, I got 36 correct and 24 not yet. For my intervention phase, I got an average of 23.7 correct and 0.8 not yet. The range was 16 correct and 2 not yet. The follow-up average was 31.25 correct and 0.5 not yet. The range was 2 correct and 1 not yet. And similar to everyone else, my other settings included friends' houses, cafes, so also public settings. And I see Annie has her graph as well.
So for my untimed baseline, I had 32 correct and 28 not yet. And for my intervention average, it was 26.2 correct and 1 not yet. It was 17 correct and 1 not yet. So my highest for intervention, 34, and my highest for follow-up was 36 timed settings. My follow-up average was a bit higher than the intervention at 34.75 correct and 0.25 not yet. Range was 2 correct and 1 not yet. Follow-up settings, I have friend's house, out in the living room, and a few other locations around, and at other times they were not. So our conclusions show that indicate that SAFMEDS and precision training are effective interventions to increase intraverbal fluency with vocabulary terms. Show that participants were able to increase fluency overall with terms that were both known and unknown prior to the study. Our participants met the aim of 40 correct and 2 or fewer not yet. Or participants showed a favorable learning pattern over the course of the intervention, increasing our fluency with the correct terms. And follow-up timings have been conducted at this time. So further follow-up testings without practicing before should be conducted to test generalization over time for this intervention. And now Monica will go over the limitations.
So for our limitations, some potential variables affecting the results of vocabulary acquisition included some definitions for the target vocabulary were difficult to condense, which made it took longer to read the definitions, and that kind of delayed the process of the timing. Varying motivation levels for reaching the aim. So each student, depending on what classes they were enrolled in, some of our group members are enrolled in 619, which was more motivating for them to reach the aim versus those that weren't. Recording one session through video did not represent treatment fidelity properly. Just because we only had one session, we weren't able to see whether that was accurate data. The proximity of the recording device during IOA and treatment fidelity sessions also caused issues with treatment fidelity because we were not able to include the piles in that frame due to us needing to reach our keyboard. This intervention increased our see phrase, say term learning channel in keeping with the results of the study by Stockwell and Eshelman. However, we do not believe that the reverse of see term, say phrase would be true. And that concludes our presentation.
Okay, you can turn the live off.
Okay.